Those faint scratches on ancient stones hold a secret language. They are quarry marks, the forgotten signatures of ancient engineers, and they are the key to unlocking one of history's greatest logistical puzzles. This video will reveal how these simple inscriptions orchestrated the movement of mountains to build entire civilizations. You will learn to read the stones themselves, transforming silent monuments into vibrant stories of human ingenuity. How did a single mark ensure a 50-ton block arrived at the right place at the right time, centuries before modern machinery? What hidden stories of work crews and trade routes are literally written in stone? By the end, you will see ancient wonders not as static piles of rock, but as the final product of a sophisticated global supply chain. What forgotten human achievement still amazes you the most? Think of the barcode on a product at the store, a simple pattern that tells a computer everything it needs to know. Ancient quarry marks were the exact same technology, carved directly into granite and limestone. They were the fundamental data system for the ancient world, a coded language of symbols, numbers, and sometimes brief text that managed the flow of stone on an almost unimaginable scale. Egyptologist Mark Lehner perfectly calls them the shipping labels for pharaonic monuments. A single mark could identify which distant quarry the block came from, which specific work crew was responsible for it, and even its precise final destination in a rising pyramid. Without this system, the construction of a Giza or a Baalbek would have descended into pure chaos. Imagine thousands of near-identical stone blocks, each weighing many tons, arriving at a frantic building site. How would anyone know which one went where? These etched instructions were the answer, ensuring every piece found its place in the grand design. This was a logistical intelligence we are only starting to properly understand. The next question is, what did these coded messages actually look like, and how do we begin to translate a language written in stone? These marks carved into the stone were the official insignias of entire work crews. Think of a massive construction project today with different teams for concrete, steel, and electrical work, each with their own identifying paperwork. The ancient Egyptians operated on the same principle, just with chisels and stone. At the Giza Plateau, archaeologists have found blocks stamped with the names of specific work gangs. One group proudly called themselves the Friends of Khufu. Another was known as the Vigorous Gang. These were not casual nicknames. They were formal titles for highly skilled teams, and their symbol on a block was a clear statement of ownership and responsibility. It told everyone on site that this particular ton of limestone was quarried by the Vigorous Gang, or that this granite beam was under the purview of the Friends of Khufu. This system created an instant chain of command. A project manager could walk through the chaotic yard, see a mark, and know exactly which foreman to speak with about a delay or to commend for excellent work. It was a brilliant method for tracking productivity and allocating resources across a sprawling work site, proving that managing the people was just as important as moving the stone. But these organizational symbols were only one part of the message. To achieve true precision, the ancients needed another layer of information, a numerical code that could dictate a block's very destiny in the rising structure. But the cruise mark was only the beginning of the message. Alongside these team insignias, you would often find a second, more cryptic set of symbols, numbers carved with mathematical intent. These were the measurement codes, the ancient equivalent of assembly instructions. Think of a massive stone block destined to become part of a pyramid's inner chamber. Etched on its side might be the number 15. This was not a random tally. It meant this was the 15th block in the 4th row or course of the wall. When the builders at the site saw that number, they knew its exact place in the grand puzzle. It had to slot in between block 14 and block 16. This system guaranteed a perfect fit, turning a chaotic pile of near-identical stones into a rapidly rising, perfectly aligned structure. The Romans perfected this idea into a true logistical art form. In quarries across their empire, workers would inscribe blocks with numbers that corresponded to a master plan, a centralized blueprint. These stones were then carefully shaped and even partially pre-assembled at the quarry itself. A block marked for a specific arch in a distant amphitheater would be cut to such precise dimensions that it would fit perfectly upon arrival, needing little to no final trimming. This was pre-fabrication on a monumental scale. It meant a ship could arrive at a port, be loaded with numbered blocks for a specific section of a building, and the construction crews at the destination could build with confidence, knowing every piece was designed for its specific location. This method eliminated guesswork and wasteful on-site cutting, dramatically accelerating the entire building process. It was a form of just-in-time delivery that required astonishing foresight and mathematical precision, a level of planning that becomes even more incredible when we follow these marked stones on their journey from the quiet quarry to the roaring construction site. The final and most critical marks were the directional and assembly guides. These were the instructions for the last, most dangerous step, maneuvering a colossal stone into its permanent home. One wrong tilt or a misaligned edge could shatter the block, wasting years of labor in an instant. To prevent this, ancient engineers carved simple, unambiguous commands directly onto the stone. A single arrow pointed the way it should be moved. A straight line etched along one face showed precisely how to align it with its neighbor. Some blocks even bore text that essentially read, "This side up," or "Set this face against block number 12. The system's brilliance is perfectly preserved at the Roman quarry of Kemtu in Tunisia. There, blocks destined for an aqueduct have matching letters carved on the faces that were meant to join together. A block with the letter alpha on one side would only fit perfectly against another block also marked alpha. This created a foolproof method for achieving a watertight seal, vital for an aqueduct carrying a constant flow of water. For the construction crew, who likely never saw the grand architectural blueprint, these marks were everything. They transformed an intimidating pile of near-identical stones into an orderly, three-dimensional puzzle. Every piece had a designated place, and the stones themselves whispered the instructions for their own assembly. This seamless integration of quarrying, transport, and final construction seems almost modern. But to truly appreciate the scale of this achievement, we must follow these marked stones on their most perilous journey, from the depths of the quarry to the heart of the rising monument. The true scale of this operation comes into focus not at the building site, but at its source, the quarry itself. This was no simple hole in the ground. It was a roaring, dust-choked factory in the open air, a place of immense noise and coordinated effort. At places like Egypt's Aswan, where the pink granite was quarried, or the Roman Empire's Mons Claudianus, the landscape was a meticulously organized industrial complex. The moment a massive block was successfully separated from the living bedrock, a foreman would step forward. His first task was not to move it, but to mark it. With a few precise strikes of his chisel, he would inscribe the stone's identity and its entire future onto its surface. This was the absolute beginning of the logistical chain. The specific symbols he chose were not random. A block intended for a local village temple might receive a simple local cruise mark, but a block quarried for a monumental project in the distant capital, Rome itself, would be stamped with the Imperial seal and a complex numerical code. That single initial inscription was the block's passport, its shipping manifest, and its assembly manual, all fused into one. It would dictate its handling for the entire epic journey ahead. The quiet of the finished monument belies the roaring, organized chaos of its birthplace, a chaos made orderly only by these carved instructions. With its identity permanently set in stone, the block was then ready for the most physically demanding part of its life, a journey over land and sea that would test the limits of ancient engineering. Each carved symbol is a word in a lost language, and the archaeologist is its translator. With a soft brush, they clear away dust and centuries, revealing a single mark that might confirm a trade route or name a forgotten work crew. This is not a simple task of looking and guessing. It is a meticulous science, a form of detective work that blends epigraphy, the study of inscriptions, with comparative analysis. The real breakthroughs happen when a team finds the same unique cluster of symbols in two different places. Imagine finding the distinct mark of a specific Egyptian quarry crew on a block at a pyramid site. That is a direct physical link. It is like finding a shipping label from a specific factory on a product in a store 1,000 miles away. It proves the entire supply chain, from the stone's origin to its final, glorious purpose. The foundational work of scholars like J. Ward Perkins, who catalogued thousands of Roman quarry marks, has allowed us to literally map the economy of an empire. We can now trace how specific marble from a quarry in modern-day Turkey was cut, marked, and shipped all the way to a luxurious villa in Roman Britain. Each deciphered symbol is a data point. When you have enough of them, you no longer just see a building. You see the political connections and the economic networks that breathed life into it. You understand that the stone in a British wall speaks of imperial contracts, Mediterranean ships, and the sheer economic force that could pull a mountain from one continent and place it in another. This emerging map of ancient logistics reveals a world far more connected and deliberately managed than we ever knew, a system of staggering complexity that moved more than just stone. A single block's journey from the Tura quarries to the Great Pyramid at Giza was a logistical masterpiece. It began deep within the quarry, where workers using copper chisels and heavy stone hammers skillfully separated a pristine block of white limestone from the bedrock. The moment it was free, a foreman stepped forward. His chisel did not shape the stone but gave it an identity, carving the symbol of his work gang directly onto its surface. That mark was its birth certificate and its first set of orders. The block was then carefully loaded onto a wooden sled. The symbol told the transport crew everything, its priority level and its ultimate destination on the rising pyramid. Teams of laborers then began the arduous task of dragging the heavy sled along a specially prepared causeway, a road of packed earth and timber toward the banks of the Nile. Upon reaching the river, the marked block was transferred from the sled onto a waiting cargo boat. This was a critical moment. The river was a floating highway of stone, with hundreds of near-identical blocks being loaded and unloaded. Without that carved symbol, a block could be easily misplaced, sent to the wrong construction site, or lost in the bureaucratic chaos. The mark ensured it stayed with its designated shipment, a single piece in a vast floating puzzle. After the journey north on the Nile, the block was offloaded on the Giza side of the river. The final, most grueling leg of the trip began, dragging the massive stone up the ramps that coiled around the growing pyramid. At the very top, builders waited. They scanned the fresh block, looking for the final set of instructions, the directional lines and alignment marks that showed them exactly how to tilt and slide this piece into its permanent home. With a final, coordinated push, the block settled into its designated spot, locked in place for millennia. This entire complex journey for one block was not a unique event. It was a process repeated over 2 million times for the Great Pyramid alone. Each carved symbol was a single note in a deafening symphony of coordination, proving that the true wonder was not just the final structure, but the invisible system that built it. This Egyptian system was breathtaking, but how did its efficiency compare to the organized might of another great empire, the Romans? The stones themselves tell a story of two very different empires. In Egypt, the quarry marks from the age of the pyramids speak a language of divine command. The most important name on a block was that of the pharaoh, the living god for whom the entire monumental project was undertaken. The work crew marks, like the Friends of Khufu, were badges of honor within this sacred, state-controlled endeavor. Every mark reinforced a single, centralized truth, that the entire economy and workforce were dedicated to a single goal, building for eternity. The logistics were a top-down operation commanded by the state and executed with religious devotion. The Roman system, however, tells a story of commerce and imperial administration. Their quarry marks are less about divine honor and more about practical business. A typical Roman inscription might name the imperial estate or fiscus that owned the quarry. Then it would list the contractor who had purchased the block, and sometimes even its final destination, like a specific public bath complex or a senator's villa. This reveals a logistical world driven by market forces as much as by imperial decree. The state provided the raw material and the infrastructure, but private enterprise often handled the rest. This was a logistics network for building an entire empire, not just a tomb for a god-king. One system was command-driven for a singular, eternal purpose. The other was commerce-driven for rapid, widespread expansion. Both were masterpieces of organization, proving there is no single blueprint for moving mountains. The very tools used to carve these marks further highlight this fascinating divergence in philosophy and practice. The stonecutter's chisel was more than a tool, it was a pen signing a contract with history. His hands, hardened by years of labor, guided the metal point with deliberate precision. Each strike against the unyielding granite or soft limestone was a calculated act. For hard stone like the pink granite of Aswan, he would use a heavy copper or bronze chisel with a stone hammer, pounding to create a deep, durable groove. On softer limestone, a finer point could incise crisp lines and clear hieroglyphs. Sometimes, for a temporary instruction meant only for the journey, he would use a brush dipped in red ochre paint. The method was always chosen with care because the mark itself was a direct reflection of his skill and his crew's reputation. A sloppy, shallow inscription could wear away during transport, rendering the block anonymous and useless. A misaligned directional arrow could cause a 50-ton obelisk to be set at the wrong angle, a catastrophic and costly error. This immense responsibility transformed a simple physical task into an act of profound accountability. That anonymous worker, whose name is lost to time, was not just cutting rock, he was embedding a piece of his own conscience into the empire's greatest monument. With every clear, legible symbol he carved, he was personally guaranteeing that his work would withstand the journey and fit perfectly into a design he would never see completed. This human connection, this thread of individual pride stretching from a dusty quarry to a pharaoh's burial chamber, is the most poignant story the stones tell. And sometimes, if we look very closely, we find that these workers left behind more than just official instructions. They left tiny, personal signatures of their own existence. The chisel marks are more than simple instructions. They are echoes of individual voices, the personal signatures of the anonymous workforce that moved mountains. Sometimes, carved right alongside the official crew name like the Vigorous Gang, we find a smaller, more intimate inscription. It might be the name of the individual stonecutter himself, or a tiny team of 3 or 4 men. In the vast, impersonal scale of a pyramid's construction, these personal marks are a stunning act of self-assertion. They are a declaration that says, "I was here. My hands shaped this stone." This is a rare and precious window into the lives of common people, the very individuals whose daily toil built the wonders we study today. A mark that reads the skilled ones is not just a team label. It is a boast, a statement of pride in craftsmanship passed down through generations. This personalization fundamentally changes how we read these stones. They are no longer cold logistical data. They are human stories of identity, ownership, and a deep-seated desire to leave a personal mark on a project destined for eternity. The sophistication was not just in the system, but in the workforce itself. These were not unthinking drones. They were organized, skilled laborers who understood their vital role in a grand endeavor. Their coordinated effort, intelligence, and sheer human spirit are the true foundations of every ancient monument. The stones themselves are the final proof, not just of engineering, but of the profound human organization that made it all possible. The language of stone changes as you travel the ancient world. In the granite quarries of Aswan, the inscriptions are the crisp hieroglyphs and crew names of pharaonic Egypt. But journey to the marble quarries of Carrara in Italy, and the marks transform into the numerical codes and Latin letters of the Roman Empire. This was not a single, universal language, but a collection of distinct regional dialects, each reflecting the unique character and administrative genius of its culture. On the island of Crete, Minoan stonecutters carved symbols from their still undeciphered script, Linear A, directly into the limestone blocks. Far to the east, in Mesopotamia, the marks were often the wedge-shaped impressions of cuneiform, pressed into the soft clay bricks before they were fired. And across the ocean, the Olmecs of Mesoamerica used a completely different iconography, their symbols reflecting a spiritual world, tied to the jaguar and the sacred landscape. This incredible variation is far more than a curiosity. It is a crucial archaeological tool. When a researcher finds a block in a Roman fort in Britain marked with the distinct symbols of a quarry from Turkey, it is not just a stone. It is a preserved data packet from an ancient trade route, a physical testament to a ship's long voyage and the economic reach of an empire. Even more telling is finding the mark itself, not just the stone. The discovery of a foreign marking style, like an Egyptian technique appearing in a Canaanite quarry, points to something even more valuable than trade goods. It signals the movement of knowledge. It suggests that a master quarryman from one culture traveled to another, bringing his superior logistical techniques with him. These carved symbols become a map of intellectual exchange, showing us a world where expertise was a prized commodity, transferred from one civilization to the next, one chisel stroke at a time. This global conversation in stone forces us to confront a profound question. How did these diverse systems, born worlds apart, so often arrive at the same brilliant logistical solutions, as if they were all reading from a universal blueprint for moving mountains? These quarry marks are more than labels. They are precise coordinates on a lost map of global trade. The distribution of a single type of stone, traced by its unique carved numbers, can outline the entire economic skeleton of an empire. Take the Imperial purple marble from the quarries at Kemtu in North Africa. Its distinctive violet veins and specific numerical codes have been found in luxurious villas in Rome, in public baths in southern France, and even in a governor's palace in distant London. Each discovery is a data point. When you connect them, you do not just see stones in different places. you see the entire route emerge, a path of commerce chiseled into the landscape of history. The stone was quarried and marked in Kemtu. It was then dragged to a river, loaded onto a barge, and floated to a Mediterranean port. There, it was transferred to a massive, ocean-going cargo ship, a vessel capable of carrying hundreds of tons of stone. That ship sailed across the open sea, braving storms and pirates to reach a port like Ostia, the main harbor of Rome. After being unloaded, the block, still bearing its original quarry number, was placed on another barge to go up the Tiber River, or loaded onto a wagon for the final overland journey to its construction site. This was not a rare, exotic shipment. This was routine commerce. The consistent presence of Kemtu marble across thousands of miles tells us this system was not just possible, it was reliable. It functioned with a regularity that allowed an architect in Britain to specify a specific North African marble for a floor, confident that the order would be filled. The stone would be cut and marked correctly, and it would arrive months later, ready to be installed. This reliability required a deep and robust economic foundation. What kind of financial and political engine was powerful enough to fuel such a predictable, long-distance exchange of sheer weight and volume? Every single chiseled mark on a block of stone carried a real price. The time of a skilled worker, the cost of his tools, and the entire administrative system behind him all represented a deliberate financial investment. Ancient project managers were not just building monuments, they were running massive, complex businesses, and they understood the value of efficiency. Developing a universal marking system required a significant overhead. You needed trained scribes to design the codes, supervisors to enforce their correct use, and a chain of command to ensure every foreman from the quarry to the building site could read the same language. This was not an insignificant expense, so why was it considered so essential? The answer is simple. The cost of a mistake without the system was astronomically higher. Think of a single 50-ton granite block quarried over months and transported hundreds of miles. If it arrived at the pyramid site without a clear mark and was placed in the wrong position, the consequences were dire. The block might not fit, forcing crews to try and reposition it, a dangerous and time-consuming task. Worse, it might be damaged during a faulty installation, rendering years of labor completely worthless. A single misplaced block could throw the entire construction schedule into chaos, delaying a project for weeks or months. The financial and political cost of such a delay was unthinkable. The carved marks were therefore a brilliant cost-saving technology. They were the ancient world's version of a sophisticated inventory management software. By investing a tiny amount of time and money upfront to carve a symbol, these ancient managers prevented catastrophic losses downstream. This system optimized the flow of stone, labor, and time across the entire economy, from the quarry owner to the ship captain to the master builder. It proves a timeless principle. Smart information systems, the kind that prevent errors and streamline complex processes, have always been a fundamental driver of economic prosperity. This logistical intelligence did not just build structures, it built and sustained empires themselves. That imperial stamp on a block of marble was a political act as much as a logistical one. When a stonecutter in a quarry owned by the emperor chiseled the letters expred, short for expredioles, or from the imperial estate, he was doing more than tracking inventory. He was branding that stone with the absolute authority of Rome. Emperors like Trajan and Hadrian understood that controlling the source of prestige materials was a direct form of power. They did not just want to build an empire, they wanted to build an empire that looked Roman, from its grandest capital city to its most remote frontier outpost. By holding a monopoly on the finest marbles and granites, the emperor could decide who got to build in splendor and who did not. A senator wanting purple-veined marble for his villa could not simply buy it on the open market. He had to petition the imperial administration, a process that reinforced the emperor's central role as the ultimate patron and the sole source of true luxury. This control extended all the way to the finished monument. An imperial quarry mark was a permanent claim of ownership, a declaration that this stone and the building it formed were part of the emperor's legacy. It was a way of ensuring that his name and his glory were physically woven into the fabric of the entire known world, a unified architectural language spoken from the Scottish border to the deserts of North Africa. This grand political vision, however, was utterly dependent on the most perilous phase of the entire operation, the epic journey that would carry these marked stones across continents and oceans. Moving a 500-ton block was an epic feat of physics and coordination. Those quarry marks were the first command in a carefully choreographed sequence, a set of instructions that activated an entire transport network. The symbols etched into the stone at the quarry face were not just about identity, they were a technical data sheet. A specific numerical code could instantly communicate the block's weight and dimensions to the logistics foreman. He would look at that mark and know immediately what resources to deploy. A smaller block might be destined for a standard sled and a team of 24 men. But a true colossus, like the obelisks of Egypt or the column drums of Rome, required a different level of planning altogether. That single mark triggered the assembly of a massive, heavy-duty sled, the gathering of hundreds of laborers, and the preparation of a specialized route. In Egypt, a mark might dictate that this particular block needed to be routed through a specific canal to connect with the main flow of the Nile, ensuring it joined the correct flotilla heading north. For the Romans, the same principle applied. A quarry mark on a block of marble in Carrara could specify the number of oxen teams required to haul it to the coast, and even the specific class of cargo ship needed to carry its immense weight across the Mediterranean. This was the genius of the system. The information traveled with the stone itself, ensuring that at every point along the journey, from the quarry gate to the final ramp, the right equipment and the right team were already waiting. It eliminated guesswork and delay, creating a seamless, continuous flow of material. This logistical ballet, however, was performed on a stage fraught with immense and unpredictable danger. The perfection of these systems was an ideal, not a daily reality. Chisel marks sometimes tell a story of failure and recovery. Look closely at a wall in an Egyptian temple, and you might find a block with a faint, partially erased symbol right next to a fresh, deeply carved one. This is not vandalism, it is evidence of an on-the-fly correction. Perhaps the original cruise mark was wrong, or the construction plan changed after the stone was already set in place. The old instruction was formally voided, and a new one was issued directly onto the stone, a permanent record of a mid-project revision. Even more telling are the blocks that never made it to their destination. Scattered throughout ancient quarries and along known transport routes are abandoned stones, some still bearing their proud, hopeful marks. A colossal granite block left in the Aswan quarry, partially separated from the bedrock but with a deep crack, tells a silent story of a geological flaw that defeated the best engineers. Its quarry mark is a ghost, a set of instructions for a journey that never began. Another stone, discovered at the bottom of the Mediterranean near a Roman port, still bears the imperial stamp it received at the quarry. Its mark now tells a final, tragic story of a ship that foundered in a storm, its cargo of destiny lost to the sea for centuries. These flawed and abandoned stones are not evidence of incompetence. They are proof of immense ambition pushing against the hard limits of ancient technology. Every corrected symbol and every abandoned block represents a problem identified and a solution attempted. The system's true strength was its flexibility. It provided a common language not just for building according to plan, but for troubleshooting when things went wrong. A mismeasured block could be identified by its mark, pulled from the assembly line, and repurposed for a less critical part of the structure, all because its identity was permanently carved into its face. This adaptability in the face of constant challenges is perhaps the most impressive logistical feat of all. The system was not just about avoiding mistakes, but about having a clear, universal method for recovering from them. The organizational genius of the pharaohs and Romans never truly disappeared. It simply evolved, its core principles carried forward by the hands of medieval masons building Europe's great cathedrals. High on the soaring stone walls of Chartres or Notre Dame, you can find them small, cryptic symbols chiseled into the granite. These are masons' marks, the direct descendants of the ancient quarry codes. They served a slightly different yet equally vital purpose. In an age of guilds and skilled freelance labor, a mason's unique mark was his signature. It identified which blocks he had shaped and set, allowing the cathedral's master builder to track his work for two critical reasons: quality control and payment. A clean, precise cut and a perfect fit meant the mason would be paid in full. A sloppy job, easily traced back to his personal symbol, could mean a dock in wages or even being barred from the site. This system ensured that every stone, from foundation to spire, met an exacting standard because a man's livelihood was literally carved into his work. The method had shifted from tracking state-owned blocks for a pyramid to tracking individual craftsmanship for a cathedral, but the underlying logic was identical. Clear, durable information inscribed directly onto the material was the simplest way to manage a massively complex project. The echo of this ancient practice can even be heard in the numbering of modern steel beams or the barcodes on prefabricated building components. The fundamental challenge of organizing vast construction has always demanded the same solution: a physical language that travels with the material itself, whispering instructions from its origin to its final, permanent home. This enduring principle connects the quarry foreman at Giza to the medieval stonemason and the modern site manager, proving that the most powerful logistical systems are often the most elegantly simple. That ancient mason's mark is the direct ancestor of the QR code on a shipping container today. Both are answers to the same timeless problem: how do you track a single object as it moves through a vast, complex network? The pharaohs used a chisel and stone. We use laser scanners and satellites, but the fundamental goal is identical: to embed critical data directly onto the product so it can identify itself at every stage of its journey. Our modern supply chains rely on barcodes for instant identification, radio frequency identification tags for wireless tracking, and global positioning systems for real-time location data. This digital system achieves in seconds what the ancient marks did over months of travel, but the principle is a direct parallel. An Egyptian quarry mark was a static, physical barcode. The crew's symbol was its unique product identifier. The directional arrow was its routing instruction. The number for its pyramid course was its final destination code. This was a brilliantly low-tech solution to a high-tech problem, proving that the core challenges of logistics are universal. We still need to know what something is, where it is going, and how it should get there. The solutions have evolved from stone and chisel to silicon and light, but the underlying genius of attaching information directly to the object has remained constant for thousands of years. This principle of embedded data is now pushing into realms the ancient quarry foreman could never have conceived, from packages that communicate their own condition to components that guide robotic arms on a factory floor. The future of this ancient idea is limited only by our imagination, a future built on the same simple, powerful concept first carved into stone. These faint chisel marks are now being read with tools the original stonecutters could never have dreamed of. High-resolution 3D scanning is revolutionizing the field, allowing archaeologists to create perfect digital replicas of an inscribed stone surface. They can then manipulate this model on a screen, enhancing the shadows and depth of each groove to reveal details a human eye could never spot in direct sunlight. Was that a faint line part of the symbol or just a natural crack in the granite? The 3D model can answer that question with certainty. Even more astonishing is multispectral imaging, a technology that uses different wavelengths of light to see beneath the surface. It can sometimes detect the ghost of a painted mark, the red ochre instruction that faded away to nothing over centuries, a message thought permanently lost. But perhaps the most transformative tool is artificial intelligence. Researchers are now training AI algorithms to recognize and categorize quarry mark patterns across thousands of photographs from different sites. The human brain is brilliant, but it cannot hold every known symbol from every quarry in the Roman Empire in its memory at once. An artificial intelligence can. It can scan through a database of 100,000 images and, in seconds, identify that a mark found in a remote Spanish fort is an exact match for one from a small quarry in rural Greece. It can spot these subtle, hidden connections that have eluded scholars for generations, potentially revealing a forgotten trade route or a previously unknown link between two distant provinces. These technologies are not just giving us better data, they are transforming a scattered collection of individual symbols into a single, massive, big data set of ancient global logistics. We are no longer just reading individual words, we are starting to understand the entire language, the grammar and syntax of how an empire moved its mountains. The stones have been waiting to tell these deeper stories for millennia, and we are finally developing the ears to hear them, stories that may completely reshape our understanding of ancient capabilities. These quarry marks provide the most definitive answer to a modern mystery that needs no aliens. The precise cuts and colossal scales of ancient monuments have long fueled speculation about lost civilizations or otherworldly intervention. Yet the evidence carved into the stone itself tells a very different and far more human story. Look closely at these inscriptions and you will find inconsistencies. Some are deeply and elegantly carved by a master's hand, while others are shallow and awkward, the work of an apprentice still learning his craft. You will find mistakes, lines that were started and then abandoned, and symbols that were clumsily corrected. This is not the work of a flawless, hyper-advanced technology. It is the work of people, brilliant and organized people, but people nonetheless who learned through trial and error. The true marvel is not that they never made a mistake, but that they developed a system robust enough to catch those mistakes and correct them. The real lost technology was not a crystal power source or an anti-gravity device. It was the intricate social machinery, the administrative genius required to feed, house, and direct a workforce of thousands for generations. This was a technology of logistics, of bureaucracy, of human coordination on a scale that still stuns us today. That humble chisel mark is the ultimate proof. It is the signature of a human intelligence, a system of management so effective it could turn a mountain into a monument using little more than symbols, sleds, and sheer determined will. The stones were not moved by magic, they were moved by a system, and that system, captured in these inscriptions, is the genuine wonder that deserves our awe. That single, corrected symbol on a temple wall is more than a logistical fix, it is a historical footnote. These quarry marks form a parallel history, a story told not by the kings in their official chronicles, but by the chisels of the workforce. While a grand obelisk might proclaim a pharaoh's divine power, the marks on its base can whisper of a drought that led to food shortages, forcing a crew to rename themselves the Persevering Gang. You can almost feel their determination in that new title, a quiet act of resilience against forces beyond their control. This is history from the ground up. In a Roman quarry, you might find a block where the original Greek lettering of a local contractor has been partially chiseled away, and the stamp of the Imperial Roman fiscus has been carved over it. This is not a simple change of ownership. It is the physical evidence of a political annexation, a silent witness to the moment a region was swallowed by the expanding empire. The official history books record the conquest as a single event, but the stone records the messy, practical aftermath. This granular perspective, carved by managers and laborers, provides the crucial context that the broad strokes of political history always miss. It gives us a world that is more nuanced, more complete, and far more human. The grand narrative was written by the victors, but the daily reality was inscribed by the workers, whose collective effort is the true foundation of our shared past. Behind every carved symbol was a mind of immense capability. Think of the ancient project manager standing in the dust of the quarry or the chaos of the building site. He was not just an overseer with a whip, he was a master of logistics, a true Renaissance man millennia before the Renaissance. His required skill set was staggering. He needed literacy to read and create complex codes, mathematics to calculate volumes and weights, and geometry to understand how each block would fit into a structure he could only see on papyrus blueprints. He had to be a geographer, knowing the best routes from the quarry to the river, and a psychologist, managing the morale and coordination of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of workers. His most critical tool was not a chisel but foresight. He had to anticipate every possible problem: a cracked block at the quarry, a low Nile that delayed shipping, a miscommunication between crews. His solution for all these potential disasters was the same: a robust, flexible information system carved directly into the product. He knew that a single, clear mark could prevent a month of wasted effort. We will never know their names. They built no grand tombs for themselves. Their legacy is far more profound. It is the silent, enduring presence of the pyramid itself, the aqueduct that still stands, the temple that has weathered centuries. These monuments are their true memorials, a testament to a form of genius we are only now beginning to fully appreciate: the power of brilliant organization. This human capacity to coordinate on such a scale raises a final, compelling question about the world they helped to build. This investigation does not end with the experts. It now continues with you. The next time you view a photograph of an ancient structure, from the cyclopean walls of Mycenae to the intricate ashlar of Machu Picchu, pause and look closer. Scan the surface of the stones not as a monolithic whole, but as individual pieces of a puzzle. Search for patterns that break the natural texture of the rock. Look for a series of parallel lines, a single arrowhead shape, or a recurring symbol that seems too deliberate to be random erosion. These are the potential quarry marks, waiting for a modern eye to give them meaning. Many museums and archaeological institutes have online databases filled with high-resolution photographs of ancient stonework. Dive into these digital archives. If you find a compelling mark, become a detective. Does it look like a letter or a number from an ancient alphabet? Is it a simple geometric shape? Theorize about its purpose. Could that cluster of dots be a tally counting blocks for a specific row? Might that straight groove be an alignment guide for the mason setting it? Share what you discover in the comments. Describe the mark and your theory about its story. Did it belong to the vigorous gang of a forgotten culture? Did it ensure a perfect seal for a water channel? Together, we can form a community of modern decoders, piecing together the logistical language of our ancestors. This collective effort connects us directly to the past, transforming passive observation into active participation in a story that is still being told. A single scratch on a block of Aswan granite holds the entire story. From these faint inscriptions to the numbered stones of a Roman wall, quarry marks are the most profound proof of human ingenuity. They force us to see that the true wonder of the ancient world was never just the physical monument, but the invisible framework that built it. The real magic was the logistics, the meticulous organization, and the clear communication that spanned continents. We have followed these marks from the quarry face to the final wall, meeting the crews who carved them and tracing the vast trade routes they mapped. These silent symbols teach us a fundamental truth. Civilization is built on grand visions, yes, but it is sustained by meticulous planning and the collective, coordinated effort of countless unnamed individuals. The historian Will Durant once wrote that civilization is a stream with banks. The quarry marks are the enduring signs left on those banks, the permanent reminders of the immense flow of human enterprise that carved them. If this journey into the story behind the stones has captivated you, please subscribe for more explorations into history's hidden narratives. Let us know in the comments which ancient mystery you would like us to decode.